This day will go down in infamy, and Joe Biden will forever be remembered as not only the most corrupt president in the history of our country, but perhaps, even more importantly, the president who, together with a band of his closest thugs, misfits, and Marxists, tried to destroy American democracy.
You know, when you attack Donald Trump doesn't sit on his hands. He comes out swinging. That's one of his most charming characteristics. Well, happy Wednesday to you. Hillary Clinton once again waking up face down in a pool of her own dried vomit on her vinyl kitchen floor. She wouldn't have a vinyl floor, would she? She'd have mahogany. She'd have some kind of endangered wood. In a pool of her own dried vomit. Because it's another day in the Clinton household, you know, hump day. Look out for the Energizer. Secret Service steps out of the way. And President Trump last night at his Bedminster, New Jersey golf club, he took the 757 down to Miami day before yesterday, and he hung out at one of his incredible places, a golf club and country club, night before last. And then he appeared in court yesterday where he didn't say anything. His lawyers spoke for him. President Trump was pleaded not guilty to all these many Democrat Party charges. And then he headed out to a restaurant, a Cuban restaurant, where he was greeted like a hero of the revolution. And he paid for everybody's meal because, you know, he's a generous guy. Joe Biden wouldn't do that. He'd steal the kid's ice cream and, you know, then trip the kid and then fall down himself. Did you see the meme going around of Joe Biden? We posted it. We posted it on our Twitter and Facebook and so on. Joe Biden in bubble wrap. He's in a bubble wrap suit, got a big bubble over his head like a spaceman and covered in giant bubble wrap because he falls down a lot. You know, he does a lot of falling down. So I don't think it's an actual photograph. I think it's been altered based on what I've seen, but it's kind of a fun one. And again, President Trump at Bedminster last night, speaking in the 8 p.m. hour Eastern time to the nation, and he came out swinging because he's Donald Trump, and he comes out swinging when people attack him. And boy, a lot of people attack him, don't they? Pretty amazing life that he's having, just extraordinary. And he's the first brawler to come along. Also today, because it's kind of funny, last night, is a little bit funny, as Elton John used to say, but the people at the Panhandler Broadcasting System, do you remember them? They used to do, in fact, now they got Sesame Street, and Sesame Street, they've got Pride Month for the kids on Sesame Street. And what did they have yesterday, Michael? We'll get to this. PBS, they had Elmo. The whole Tickle Me Elmo thing is completely different than it was a few years ago because the Democrats really are coming for the kids. So you got to keep Elmo away, too. But the PBS, Sesame Street, Elmo, gay pride, children, they're coming for the children. They remind me of Peter Lorre and M, you know, Fritz Lang movie. Everybody knows that one, right? But the people at the Panhandler Broadcasting System last night, first of all, what CNN and MSNBC dumped out of it angrily, right, of Trump's speech. We're not going to carry that. And it's kind of funny, Jake Tapper, former Democrat Capitol Hill staffer, now CNN anchorman, they said they're not going to carry it, and we're spitting mad, hostile toward President Trump last night. Of course, this is the network that had the town hall with President Trump not so long ago, and no schizophrenia there or anything like that. And then they all changed genders last night. It was kind of weird. There's like a do-si-do, and all the CNN anchors, now all their boy anchors are lady anchors, and all their lady anchors are boy anchors. Did that happen last night, or is that just a rumor on the internet? But let's get back to PBS for a second, because the Panhandler Broadcasting System, suckling on the taxpayer teat. Can you say suckling on the taxpayer teat on the radio? I think you can. The people at PBS, they actually carried President Trump, at least for part of his speech. I'm not sure if they carried the whole thing because I wasn't watching, who was. But they put a warning. They put a warning on the bottom of the screen while President Trump was speaking. And the warning from the Panhandler Broadcasting said, run by all lefties, not even liberals. Some of them identify as liberals, but they're all lefties. It says, experts warn. They've got a content warning on the screen while President Trump is speaking. And it says, experts, they have experts. They when they consulted experts on this because they got a lot of experts. Experts warn that inflammatory rhetoric from elected officials or people in power can prompt individual actors to commit acts of violence. That's what that PBS actually put that on the bottom of the screen last night while President Trump was speaking, which is pretty amazing, particularly given that today is the 6th anniversary of the Democrat Party volunteer James Hodgkinson shooting and nearly killing Congressman Steve Scalise and trying to mow down an entire Republican baseball team. In fact, tonight is the congressional baseball game. Watch the media never mention it. They will never mention that today is the 6th anniversary of James Hodgkinson, a Bernie Sanders campaign volunteer, showing up at a baseball field in Alexandria, Virginia, trying to murder the entire Republican congressional baseball team. It was a suicide attack. Shot Congressman Steve Scalise. Congressman, then House member Ron DeSantis, had just left moments earlier. In fact, he spoke to the gunman on his way out. The gunman was asking, are those Republicans or Democrats out there? Because they've loosed a lot of bloodthirsty jackals on the world. So today's the anniversary of that, and I'm going to get back to that because I want to talk about that more. And tonight is the congressional baseball game. And the news media, if they're going to be talking about January 6th on every January 6th for the next 15 years. But when a Democrat Party volunteer, a Bolshevik, a socialist Democrat, James Hodgkinson, shows up, he's a Bernie Sanders campaign volunteer, shoots Congressman Steve Scalise. It was a suicide attack. He was shot to death by the police. And 2 police officers were wounded that day, too, by the Democrat. And today is the 6th anniversary of that. The news media made sure that was a 1-day, maybe a 2-day story. No satellite trucks and anchormen for them outside the hospital or anything like that. They moved right on. And I see this. Experts warn inflammatory rhetoric can lead to acts of violence. I marvel at that because I remember Maxine Waters encouraging left-wing lunatics to attack Republicans in gas stations and the Democrats rousing people up to attack people in restaurants. And I remember Senator Chuck Schumer, also known as the Lizard King, threatening on the steps of the Supreme Court Justice Kavanaugh and who else did he threaten? Gorsuch. And Kavanaugh, you will reap the whirlwind. And then a short time later, an armed assassin showed up and was arrested outside of Brett Kavanaugh's home. He had kidnapping tools and burglary tools, gun with multiple magazines. He was planning on murdering 3 Supreme Court justices. And, of course, the Democrats fanned the flames, and we had riots from coast to coast. We're still being looted on a regular basis. And all of that is because of the Democrats. But PBS puts up no warning for that at our expense, at taxpayer expense. No warning for that. Pretty amazing. So I want to get into all that because there's a lot to get into there. Yes, sir. Tons and tons. I'm sorry. The Joe Biden and bubble wrap is on Twitter and Instagram, but not on Facebook. No, is that right? Facebook won't let you post things if they make fun of Joe Biden. Is that true? Because Mark Zuckerberg, the billionaire, the child sent a billionaire, that's more than $100 billion for Democrats listening along. He gave hundreds of millions of dollars to the Democrats, right, in the last election cycle. And is that true? Facebook is just another third word enterprise now, and it's not letting us post anything. Oh, is that because we're the Chris Plant Show, or just if it's making fun of Joe Biden? Either way, they're fascists. Let's just say that. Remember, Benito Mussolini's definition of fascism is a merger of state and corporate power. And Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook, that's corporate power. The Democrat Party, that's state power. There has been a merger there. That's fascism. only if you want to use Benito Mussolini's definition of fascism. Maybe you want to use someone else's definition of fascism. But I think Benito, who ended up upside down hanging in a town square being beaten by the townspeople using folding lawn chairs and things like that, as is appropriate. So we got that going. And I'm gonna share because I'm going to keep the historical record alive. Democrats keep little things alive by repeating them again and again and again. And then there are things like James Hodgkinson. And by the way, James Hodgkinson was stoked into a fanatical mass murdering suicide attack, mass political assassination attempt by the Democrat Party, by Bernie Sanders, and by the Southern Poverty Law Center, who had demonized Congressman Steve Scalise as a villain. And the Southern Poverty Law Center also was the guy that attacked the Family Research Council in Washington, D.C. with a gun and Chick-fil-A sandwiches and was planning on murdering everybody there. Now, he was a gay activist, right? That guy? And he shot a man at the Family Research Council. And then the man was a manly man, toxic masculinity, beat up the crazy little gunman that had been inspired by the Southern Poverty Law Center. So the Southern Poverty Law Center actually has more ties to terrorist attacks than just about any organization in the United States. But they're in good with the Democrats, so it's okay. It's part of that merger of state and corporate power that Benito Mussolini was talking about. So just scratching the surface on a couple of things I want to get to today. Again, the congressional baseball game tonight. Today, the anniversary of the Bernie Sanders suicide attack, his volunteer suicide attack, shooting Congressman Steve Scalise 6 years ago today. It's not in the Washington Post. They don't observe these anniversaries. Also, speaking of which, today is Flag Day, ladies and gentlemen. I'm saluting. Today is Flag Day, and today is Donald Trump's 77th birthday. And he would beat up Joe Biden in a cage match in about 15 seconds, I think, and that's just because he'd want to have a little fun, so he wouldn't do it in 2 or 3 seconds. 77 years old today, the former President of the United States, Donald John Trump, possible future President of the United States. Joe Biden is just, Joe Biden. He's in bubble wrap, and he ought to be. Yeah, so we got Jake Tapper says CNN won't cover the potentially dangerous Trump speech. Again, this is the people that live by the First Amendment, and they declare that the former president's speech is, quote, potentially dangerous, so they're not going to cover it. You know what's potentially dangerous? That speech from Jake Tapper. That is anti-American, un-American, pro-fascist. Again, it's big megacorp media and the Democrat Party. It's the merger of corporate and state power once again. Jake, I'm saying Jake Tapper is a fascist. I think that's what I'm saying here. Enough of that. Jake Tapper cuts away from Trump's cheerful restaurant visit. He went to, after the arraignment, went to a restaurant and was cheerful. So CNN cut away from it angrily because, Jake Tapper used to work for the Democrat member of the House of Representatives whose husband went to prison for being a corrupt member of Congress and whose son married Chelsea Clinton. Chelsea Clinton is, of course, the daughter, not of Bill Clinton, but of Webb Hubbell. Just look at the pictures. Pay no attention to that. So Rachel Maddow also not airing Trump because he might say untrue things. And as Mika Brzezinski has pointed out, that's their job. That's what they do. So pretty amazing stuff. We've got that. And there is a funny moment on Fox News last night. Mediaite, left-wingers at Mediaite, very upset. The Fox News graphic on the screen called Biden a wannabe dictator in a split screen during the Trump speech, which is pretty funny. The guy with the pig's head in Florida, did you see him? Guess who he supports? The pig's head. Guy showed up with a severed pig's head, like at the end of the movie Carrie, on a pole, on a pike. And the Democrats, well, once again, they were disappointed. But it's kind of fun. The Democrats have a 9-year-old. They've got a 9-year-old, or a group of 9-year-olds, leading the Gay Pride Month celebration at a school in Virginia. Just don't call them groomers, and don't suggest they're coming for the children, because they don't want that. And Johns Hopkins University has a new lexicon for us to use. Pretty amazing stuff. Wildfires, now drought. They're just in a panic about the weather. They're like primitive people. They really are. We're at 888-630-9625. Hey, Chris here with some exciting news. Now you can listen to me live on the WMAL app. Doesn't matter if you're in your car, in the office, on the go. The WMAL app delivers crystal clear around-the-clock news coverage anywhere with cell service or Wi-Fi. So don't miss a second of your favorite shows. Download the WMAL app today on the Apple App Store or at Google Play Store. What does Ladies' Night mean anymore, honestly? Ladies' Night is the most confusing night of the week for Democrats. They don't know which way to go, as it were. Johns Hopkins University with a new lexicon having to do with gender. I think they've already pulled it, haven't they? They've yanked it. They've given it a tug. Isn't that what happened? Let's go to the telephones. Let's see. Let's go to Glenn calling from Somerville, South Carolina. Glenn, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Good morning there, Chris, and ditto, buddy.
Hey.
You are the man.
Well, thank you very kindly. You're very kind.
And I tell you, I enjoy your Newsmax TV show. It's as good as anything on the air, or better than 99% of anything on the air.
Well, you're very kind.
Keep it up, man.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'm an old dude, okay? For some reason, this sticks in my mind. Back in 1958 or 59, when President Eisenhower was in office, he had a chief of staff named Sherman Adams, and he was a good one. And he accepted a vicuña coat, probably for his wife, hopefully, and an Oriental rug as a gift. And when Eisenhower found out about it, he forced Sherman Adams to resign.
Wow.
Just over a vicuña coat and an Oriental rug. How does that compare and contrast with what the hell is going on today? You know?
That is funny. I was out with a friend of mine, Pat, last night. We were on a rooftop. We had a couple of beers, and we were talking about Eisenhower. We were talking about Dwight David Eisenhower as a president and what an extraordinary life and what an extraordinary guy was, and a humble person. Smashed the Socialist Workers' Party of Adolf Hitler in Europe, and then came to the United States, came home and became president of the United States. You know, the interstate highway system all by itself. Try doing that today. You can't get an off-ramp built in 20 years, you know?
How about I-95 in Philly?
That route. If Eisenhower were president, that'd already be back up and running, by now. Well, the greatest generation, Glenn, and they had very high ethical standards. The left has made sure that we've done away with very high ethical standards. Bum, 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 bum. Well, happy Flag Day to all patriotic Americans. And, Democrats, you're going to find something else to do. You can celebrate the anniversary of your suicide attacker, would-be mass murdering political assassin James Hodgkinson of the Bernie Sanders presidential campaign. You can celebrate the anniversary of James Hodgkinson shooting Congressman Steve Scalise, who was 6 years ago today, who was demonized by the Democrats and the Southern Poverty Law Center. And keeping in mind, the Southern Poverty Law Center also demonized the Family Research Council. And then they had a lunatic LGBTQ would-be mass murderer show up there with a gun, lots of ammunition, and delicious chicken sandwiches from Chick-fil-A. Delicious, crispy chicken sandwiches from Chick-fil-A. So, we all have different anniversaries and happy birthday to President Trump, 77 years old. We've got in Virginia, Charlottesville, Virginia, I guess yesterday they had the 9-year-old children. The Daily Signal from the Heritage Foundation has the story and the video, and we're going to play the audio for you. They had the 9-year-old children leading their LGBTQIA events, and just don't say they're indoctrinating the children. Are they having heterosexual day next week where you indoctrinate the little tiny children to the ways of adult sex in the heterosexual world, or will that not come about? B is the correct answer. That will never come about. And at Johns Hopkins University, they have created an all-new lexicon, and they've got all kinds of great stuff. I'm going to get into this, a glossary, and they have, what do they call it? Their Gender and Sexuality Resources webpage. They've got a gender resources webpage, and they got great stuff like AFAB. You could refer to yourself as AFAB, assigned female at birth. You get with that. And WSW, they have WSW, which is an abbreviation for women who have sex with women. That'd really just be women sex women, because they left out the other words in their abbreviation. But there are more. In fact, I haven't even gotten to the really ridiculous ones yet, but I'm going to, because this is academia. Johns Hopkins. In fact, you remember yesterday that CNN reporter that was haranguing the Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, the CNN fake reporter. She had a master's degree from Johns Hopkins University in what, Michael?
Creative writing.
In creative writing, that's right.
Lauren Fox was her name.
Yeah, Lauren Fox. She has a master's degree from Johns Hopkins, used to be a respectable school, in creative writing. And CNN saw that, and they're like, creative writing? That's what we do. This is perfect. Hand, meat, glove. This is wonderful. So we got that. Yeah, and the children, they just keep coming for the children. It's amazing. The college campuses, that's one thing. The 9-year-olds leading the way, as turns out the Democrats have taken over the school system in Charlottesville, Virginia, and they're coming sexually for the children, but only under the umbrella of gay, LGBTQ. Not because it would be wrong to introduce them to a heterosexual lifestyle that early on, because that would be illegal, and you'd probably go to prison or something. But when it's LGBTQIA, then it's okay, isn't it? All right, and I tell you, I've got a lot of President Trump to get to from last night and and the news media, because they couldn't be more crooked if their goal were to be more crooked. When I say their, that's like a they, them. That's their pronouns. All right, let's go back to the telephones, Michael. Before we get back to the Democrat Party crazy, we are at 888-630-9625. Yeah, they have the 9-year-olds. Let's go to Tom calling from McLean, Virginia. Thomas, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Yes, good morning, Chris. I'm a retired Navy officer. I spent 24 years in uniform. I was appalled at the attempts to legitimize Hunter Biden by getting him a reserve commission in the U.S. Navy. They did this about a year or so ago, if you remember. He did not meet any of the qualifications. There was an age limit. You had to be between A and B, no older than such and such. He was older than that. You had to have no prior drug use. He was a druggie. And you were also supposed to have some expertise in the field, and he didn't have any of that. They gave him that reserve commission because Daddy managed to make that happen. Interestingly enough, the Navy has random drug testing, and the first random drug test, Hunter failed, and they took away the commission. They did that before Daddy could get in and step in and save him. But that's just an example of what's happening with the attempts to legitimize Hunter. He's total scum, but they are trying to turn him into a victim of I don't know what, but a victim.
Well, and, it's funny you should say that, Tom. Yesterday, USA Today, a former newspaper, USA Today had a column that attacked Republicans for bringing up Hunter Biden when we're talking about Joe Biden and Hunter Biden family, Biden family corruption and Ukraine. And, Hunter Biden's in the middle of all the Joe Biden corruption and the millions of dollars coming from Ukraine and Burisma.
Absolutely.
All right. And USA Today attacked Republicans yesterday for daring to bring Hunter Biden into the discussion because, after all, he is a drug addict. And he should be, and you're right, he was kicked out of the Navy for, I believe, repeated cocaine busts while he was a naval officer for that brief period of time. And you're right that Joe Biden pulled strings to get Hunter in, even though he didn't qualify for a variety of reasons. And they pulled political strings in Washington to get him into the Navy. Then 2 cocaine abuse issues with him while I was a naval officer, and he's kicked out of the Navy. And USA Today yesterday, back to them, they're attacking Republicans. How dare you? He's a lot of families, millions of families have drug abusers in their, and that's true. Okay, but and they're like, but those mean Republicans are attacked. They even use his drug use when talking about him. Well, I certainly do because I make fun of him all the time. And the big lie there is that USA Today was peddling on behalf of their party, the Democrat Party, and their candidate, Joe Biden, and a crackhead, stripper, knocker-upper, Russian hooker dating, Burisma milking son of the President of the United States, Hunter Biden. It's an amazing...
In the recovery community, they talk about recovered and... continuing using drug users. No, Hunter is a continued user. He has made no effort. Well, he may have made an effort, but he has made no inroads into recovering from his addiction. And as such, he doesn't deserve any credit.
Well, I mean, I got to tell you, as drug use aside, thank you, Tom, and God bless you. And on this Flag Day, I am saluting you, Tom, for your 24 years in the United States Navy. Thank you, and God bless you. The reality is that the reason Hunter Biden is a part of the discussion is because Hunter Biden had a no-show job with the Burisma natural gas company in Ukraine, inexplicably, a country that, as far as anyone knows, he's never been to, in the natural gas industry, an industry that he's never worked in. That Burisma paid Hunter Biden about $1 million a year. And Hunter Biden's friend, Devin Archer, was also paid just shy of $1 million a year, and I mean a few dollars shy of $1 million a year each, to sit on the board of Burisma, a Ukrainian natural gas company, when neither one of them had any background in Ukraine or in natural gas. Now, how do you think they scored those jobs? That just pick them out of the phone book? No. It turns out the owner of Burisma, and this man now we've learned, thanks to Senator Chuck Grassley, the owner of Burisma, and this guy is in danger right now, I can tell you that much. A Russian missile might accidentally hit his house, the way things are going. But the owner of Burisma, a Ukrainian man, claims to have 17 audio recordings, 15 of him talking on the phone to Hunter Biden about business things, and 2 of him talking to then Vice President Joe Biden. I played the audio for you yesterday of Joe Biden demanding that the chief prosecutor in Ukraine be fired. Otherwise, the Obama-Biden administration would not guarantee $1 billion in loans for Ukraine, which they desperately needed at the time. And sure enough, damn, he told the Council on Foreign Relations and Richard Haas while they all laughed, oh, so you got the prosecutor fired that was investigating your family's corruption in Ukraine. And looking at the company that's funneling millions, now we're told reliably, $5 million to Joe Biden, $5 million to Hunter Biden from Burisma. The phone calls being recorded, we're told, was as an insurance policy, that is blackmail. And now that word of the 17 audio recordings has been made public. I promise you the owner of Burisma is in grave danger. That is to say that his life is in danger. And I guarantee you that agents of the Biden administration have already been deployed to Ukraine to do everything they can to retrieve any audio recordings so that those audio recordings never go public, because they don't want that. They're going to get Rosemary Woods So Richard Nixon's West Wing secretary, the disappearing Richard Nixon tapes. Watch these tapes disappear because the Democrats in the Biden White House have a great deal of power, and they control the government agencies and departments. Boy, do they. The permanent bureaucracy is also in bed with them. So they're going to try real hard to get a hold of all 17 audio recordings and make sure there are no copies, no duplicates. But I tell you, if I'm the owner of Burisma, I'm burning copies onto hard drives. I'm sending them to friends in different countries. I'm loading these recordings onto the internet because they need to recognize, and he needs to recognize in particular, that his life is literally in danger now. You know, remember we learned a couple of weeks ago that the FBI was up on Capitol Hill and they can't release the name of the person, the whistleblower, who's talking about Biden family corruption because his life would be in danger. We did learn it was a him and not a her. And assuming they're all using normal pronouns, which I assume they are, probably not Democrats, but life is in danger, and the Burisma president, his life is most definitely in danger. Yeah, and Tom, 24 years in the Navy, wants to know how it is that Hunter Biden got a commission as a naval officer. And I've heard the story. It was pulling strings in Washington, D.C. that got the job done, because that's who they are, you know. All right, let's go to another phone call. We're going to get to President Trump and the news media after the top of the hour, and also the Democrats and the transgender 9-year-olds that they're grooming, and the new lexicon that Johns Hopkins University is putting out for LGBTQIA, various additions to that. Let's go to Phil calling from Fredericksburg, Virginia. Phil, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Mr. Plant, I am absolutely begging the person that has those 17 audio files to call your program and to broadcast them over the air and to put them on the internet right now. Don't wait. Your computer's 5 minutes away. Broadcast those 17 audio files. I want to hear Joe Biden begging for Ukrainian money to stab us in the back. I want to hear that proof, and the only way we'll hear that proof is if he puts it out on the internet. And if he gets that information out right now, they are coming, and they're going to get him. Please put that information out on the internet right now.
Well, and I assume, I believe safely assume, that the audio recordings will include Joe Biden and perhaps Hunter Biden thanking the owner of Burisma and the owner of Burisma thanking Joe Biden because, you know, Joe Biden had the government there, Yatsenyuk, make sure that they got rid of the national prosecutor, the federal prosecutor in Ukraine that was investigating corruption at Burisma, right? And so Joe Biden did Burisma a huge favor, the owner of Burisma a huge favor. And at the same time, he was doing himself a favor because while investigating the corruption at Burisma, doubtless would have stumbled upon the fact that millions of dollars were going to people named Biden from Burisma for doing nothing. Well, not for doing nothing because Joe Biden, of course, got the prosecutor fired that was investigating corruption at Burisma. So it was presumably worth the $10 or $15 million if $5 million went to Joe Biden, $5 million to Hunter Biden, and then the $1 million a year no-show jobs for Hunter Biden, which we know about. This is documented, and the exact same salary to the friend Devin Archer, who sounds like he's a secret agent in a cartoon, Devin Archer. And in fact, I've told you this before, the son of late Senator John Kerry and Teresa Heinz Kerry, the stepson of John Kerry, who flies around on Gulfstream jets lecturing people about their carbon footprints. That son was offered the same deal with Burisma, and he turned it down because he thought that it was fishy. And he was right. But when you're a Democrat and your name is Biden, and you don't have to worry about it. We do need the recordings. I would happily air the recordings in their entirety on this show. But and look, there are quid pro quo under President Trump. Well, there was an apparent quid pro quo here with Joe Biden and the owner of Burisma in Ukraine. Millions of dollars. The government stopped investigating the corruption at Burisma And now they're getting tens of billions of dollars and weapon systems up the yin-yang, metaphorically, of course, for their war with Russia, because Joe Biden is the military-industrial complex guy. There was no war when President Trump was in the White House. And since Hunter Biden's name already came up today, crackhead, stripper, knocker-upper, Russian hooker dating, first son that he is, and international business tycoon and world-renowned artist. He's an artist. His paintings are more expensive than Picasso's in many cases. He's great. There is an update on him today in the Washington Free Beacon that I will share with you as well. Hunter Biden ghosted baby mama during pregnancy. Text messages show it's a brand new story just out today in the Washington Free Beacon. I will share this update with you. The Biden family, keeping it classy. And, of course, the Democrats grooming the 9-year-olds in school. They have a galphabet. It's the entirely gay alphabet. And they're teaching the kids, the little kids, 9-year-olds, leading their Gay Pride Month events by indoctrinating the children with the galphabet. Let's go back to the phones. Let's go to, and President Trump coming up and all the news media coming up after the top of the hour, too. Let's go to Jason, calling from Kensington, Maryland. Jason, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, g'day, Chris. How you going, mate?
Great, Chase. What do you say?
Oh, much. I mean, just a sort of observation of why I sort of levitated towards the conservative side is that, in general, the Liberals are just a very unhappy, miserable, sort of a bunch of people. They just project this gloom and doom. I mean, look at the media. They always have this sort of constant look of constipation on their face. And look at you with your show. You've had what, 3 or 4 people in there, and yet NPR has about 500 people working, and they collect taxpayers' money. They still project a very negative outlook on life. I mean, you think they would be pretty upbeat getting all that, what, $500 million they get from the taxpayers, but here you guys are in there sort of projecting a very positive message, and you have, what, 3 people doing exactly the same job.
That's true. We have Michael Piercy sitting across from me here. Jasmine on the phones today, who you can talk to if you call in. She's wonderful. Yep. Now, Michael runs the board for the radio station, but not specifically for the show. He'd be here even if we were all struck by lightning later today. There are 3 of us, and an NPR 3-hour show. They have to get a blimp to get a picture of all the staff, because I think there are 33 people, and was it 33 people for one 3-hour show? And you're right, they're all miserable. Lefties are all miserable, and conservatives are all happy. Come on in, the water's fine. We're Americans.